Welcome, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to a regular scheduled meeting of the City of Morro Bay Planning Commission, Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. We're in the Veterans Memorial Building. Tonight, we have a special reception. We get to recognize our Community Development Director, Scott Graham, who's leaving us. And we thank you all for being here for this special reception. My name's William Roshan. I'm the chair. I'd like to introduce Vice Chair Mike Rodriguez, Commissioner Joseph Ingraffia, Commissioner Asia King, and Commissioner Eric Meyer. With that, we're going to say just a few remarks before we start the cookies and coffee. But we'd like to start with Cindy. Cindy is well, she's a very special person now because not only has she been here forever, but she's taken over. So as the helping us get through with the interim. And Cindy, did you have anything you'd like to say about Scott? Nice things?
Sure. Okay. I am not taking over, though. I'm going to stay in my position. We do have an interim community development director that will be starting on the 20th. So that is good news for the city. A very well-regarded professional who will be joining us. But regarding this well-regarded professional, I'll segue there. I worked with Scott for 10 years. He started for the city as the planning manager and then very quickly became the community development director. I think I can say for all of the staff in the community development department, we've really enjoyed working with him. He is a very calm and level-headed and consummate professional, and he's really made a lot of improvements to the community development department, organized back then in 2014, it was the public services department, and there was no separate standalone community development department. And so really made a lot of organizational improvements and efficiencies to the department, established the code enforcement division of the department, as well as the increasing permit efficiency, records management, being responsive to the public, and it's inspired all of us as staff to, as Scott would like to say, level up, and we appreciate all of the guidance that you've given to the department over the last 10 years, and we're going to miss working with you. Thanks.
Cindy, thanks. And before we go around real quickly with the commissioners, Yvonne, did you have anything you'd like to add about Scott?
Yeah, I have a lot to say. And I'm just going to focus on the press release that we prepared. Scott Graham, the city's community development director, has announced his decision to leave the city of Morro Bay and return to Pismo Beach to serve as the next community development director for Pismo Beach, California, beginning February 19, 2024. Mr. Graham joined the city of Morro Bay in July of 2014 as a planning manager after having had worked for the City of Pismo Beach Planning Department for a decade. In Morro Bay, Scott was promoted to the Planning Development Manager in 2015, and a year later, the Planning Development Director. With 9.5 years in Morro Bay, Mr. Scott Graham is the city's department head with the longest tenure. Throughout his time at Morro Bay, he spearheaded numerous projects that have long-lasting impacts on Morro Bay's present and future. Some of his notable achievements include the 2018 Downtown Waterfront Strategic Plan, aiming to provide strategies to connect and enhance downtown and waterfront areas, the city's housing element update in 2020, and its successful certification by the state. A comprehensive update of city's general plan, local coastal plan in 2021, which is Plan Morro Bay. And the city zoning code updating in 2022 that brings compliance with recent state regulations and the concurrency with the new general plan. As a community development director, Mr. Graham was charged with modernizing permitting process. He and his team launched CityWorks in 2020, a platform that was initially used to enable online application submittal and has evolved into a comprehensive solution that integrates GIS data into both community development and public works strategies. His championship in employing technology has resulted in improved collaboration among functions of planning, zoning, and engineering, which ultimately has led to development permit timeline reduction. During Scott's tenure as director, he successfully reorganized the department to include code enforcement and expanded the building division. As a seasoned public servant, Scott has put an emphasis on mentoring aspiring professionals to work for local government. Many city employees and local college graduates have benefited from his vast experience in coastal development, his philosophy of inclusion, and his creative mind in organizational efficiency. Mr. Graham understands the need to bolster civic engagement. He has tirelessly hosted or attended almost 400 community meetings, public hearings, and workshops during his service to Morro Bay. I can say that my team and I are sad to see Scott depart from the city. On the other hand, we extend our heartfelt congratulations to Scott on his new role. I can say that that Scott was one of the most hardworking directors I have to work with. I joke with him. I said, before I came to the city, when I prepared my interview to be the city manager, I thought I would be the most hardworking person in this town. And once I saw how he worked, I said, well, okay, I'm not the most hardworking person. At least I have a company, and now my company left me. Well, his dedication to Morro Bay community is certainly phenomenal, and my team and I will miss him. We wish him all the best in his future endeavors. With that, we do have a certificate of appreciation. Is it okay?
Yes, please. Thank you. Yvonne, thank you very much. I see a number of ex-planning commissioners in the audience. Would everybody who has been on the Morro Bay Planning Commission be willing to stand up? And wow. Thank you all very much for being here. And Jen, I'm wondering, would you be willing to say just a couple of words to Scott as just representing yourself, but you know, when I first joined the Planning Commission, you were one of us. So.
And I still am in a way.
Oh,
We're all
sweet.
partners here. Thank you, Chair Roshan. You know, I think everybody would agree here that this is a bittersweet moment. We wish the best for Mr. Graham, Director Graham. However, we're going to sorely miss you. When I started off as a commissioner, a planning commissioner here, I have to say that having you as the director was the most amazing experience because you had so much grace with me. Like, I came in here not knowing, I don't feel like I knew anything about planning, and I was like the person I think that was chosen to be the average Jane, you know, in the city to bring my perspective from the community. I'm not any professional, you know, an architect or anyone that's in the construction business, and so I had a lot of really super basic questions, and you were just always so kind to answer them and make me feel as though I was still really intelligent, even though like you could have been like, oh my gosh, seriously, Jen, another one of those questions. And so I'm grateful for the way that you treated me and the way that you treat our fellow the commissioners up here, past commissioners, our community, your fellow team members, city staff, and just Morro Bay in general. And I have to say that when I found out that you didn't even live close to Morro Bay and that you commute so far to be here every single day, and you come with a smile and an upbeat, positive attitude every single day, no matter literally what storms come our way, you always have a positive attitude. And there were nights, and there have been nights, where we would have council until 10:30, 11 at night, and then you would be up and at it early in the morning with that smile again. And I have a story about, you volunteered to come and speak at one of the Morro Bay Chamber events, and you had a bright and early morning. I think we started at 7:30 or something like that, and we had a late meeting the night before, and I remember thinking, my gosh, you have the commute all the way home, then you have to come back all the way the next morning, and then you have to be chipper and ready to go and answer questions from the audience and give your presentation. And not only did it go off without a hitch, but it was so incredibly informational, and I didn't even know you could totally have your own talk show, by the way. I don't know if all of you know this, but in that setting, you just were just so on it and engaging the audience and engaging your fellow panelists up there. And I was just so impressed with your charisma. And my husband could care less about planning and that sort of thing for the city, but I have to tell you, when we left that morning breakfast, he was like, I have learned so much, and I never knew that I loved planning, and I love it now. And so I just want to say that you have the power to do that to people. And I just, again, I think everything that our city manager, Kimball, has said, you have a long list of accomplishments, and we have so much to thank you for as a city of Morro Bay. And I don't think that the community knows even a tenth of what it is that you've done for us. And so I just want to send you off with a huge, big, giant Morro Bay hug, and I just want to thank you and let you know that you're always welcome to come visit. And if you want to call in and have any public comment on anything, but you have that institutional knowledge that we all value so much. And so hopefully you don't mind if I ever give you a call and ask you a question or two. So anyway, I just want to thank you guys for having this reception prior, because I think that Director Graham deserves this and so much more. So thank you.
Jen, thank you very much. Commissioners, we have to get to coffee and cookies. So let's keep it short, but I'd love to, all of us get to say thank you to Scott. Can I start with you, Joe, Mr. Golden Voice?
Oh, sure. Well, and I will try to be brief, although there are a great many things that I wish to thank Scott for. I'm certainly grateful for the guidance that I got from him as a planning commissioner, particularly in the early years when I really had no idea of what the planning commission was about, nor what my role could or should be on it. I'm also very, very thankful for your sensitivity repeatedly with respect to the commissioners, because sometimes we have very disparate opinions, and it seems like there's no way we're going to come up with a consensus, and even less of a way forward with whatever happens to be before us. And he so very often has been able to guide us and make things happen, and that's very important. And I will also say, I'm really grateful for your strategic abilities, and that's a skill set that I particularly value. And with respect to his skills as a strategist, what I always found reassuring was that at the very foremost of that skill was always his intention for the greatest benefit for the entire community as a whole, and I really appreciated that. And I think he should be able to walk through Morro Bay and see a great many sites that he made a very significant contribution to preserving and making them better in the community. And I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Nicely said, Joe. Thanks. Asia.
Yeah, I think I have to echo Jen's comments. I feel like you have been an amazing guide and an amazing, it's an amazing way to start your commissioner career under your guidance and with your help. And I definitely have that same sentiment that you make us feel smart when we ask dumb questions. I really appreciate that. it's hard to go after Joe because he took all my points, but I also was just thinking like the coolest part about planning is that no matter where you go next or what you do, the decisions you made are gonna here for good or for bad are gonna last a generation. And so, even though you're gonna be working elsewhere, your legacy has been embedded here in some ways, and I don't know, it's pretty cool. So thanks for all your work.
Asia, thank you so much. Mike.
Well, I'll give you your first name, Scott, and that'll be the consummate or the ultimate professional. And I think we've all said that, okay, in different ways. You help the city with its general plan, housing element, zoning update, downtown design district, which is new. I think, that shows the strategic part of you and how you do business. Remember, you came from Pismo Beach, you came to Morro Bay, you're going back to Pismo. Our doors are wide open if you ever want to come back. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you. Thank you.
Eric.
I'll echo everybody else's comments, but add that we all do have your cell phone number. So don't turn it off.
Well, to wrap this up, Scott, it is about institutional memory, institutional knowledge, and you've been great at that. When I ask you for coaching, we all got it. And one of the difficult things up here is all the ex-planning commissioners will recognize is it's our job to make soup, sometimes no matter what's in the refrigerator. And I think you've been, what's the word, not just helpful, but creative to make that meal appetizing. And so, thank you. We want to be really nice to you so we can all call you. Everybody has been saying that. But I do think we also value our staff here in Morro Bay. I think we want to make that clear, that we've received an effort from staff which is genuine, hardworking, as everybody had said. And I think to lose that, it's painful. But I think I'm hoping that this commission can support the new folks. And we're going to look hard. You're going to be difficult to replace. But thank you very, very much. And I think the audience would like to thank you. I'll offer, do you want to say anything? It's up to you.
Thank you. I guess I would say this. It's almost 10 years that I've been here. And when I've been thinking back over, what we've accomplished, and I mean we planning commission, staff, city council, community over that time frame, it's at least to me impressive. That it's no small thing to update major land use documents. It's really difficult. It's really hard, and we rewrote ours. We didn't just change it a little bit. We changed it a lot, and that's because those documents were old, and it took a heavy lift. And we updated our general plan and our zoning code. We developed the downtown and waterfront strategic plan. So a lot of planning efforts went in the time that we were here. We redeveloped a bunch of the properties, down on the waterfront because the Pipkin leases came up, and so it was constantly in front of you. And those are kind of the more difficult, things to review from a planning commission standpoint. Waterfront development is not easy. I'm just appreciative of all of the support that the community's provided to us, the support the planning commission's given to staff, the city council's given to staff. I have nothing but good memories and fond feelings for the community of Morro Bay. It's been a great experience and a great time, and I'll look back on it fondly for the rest of my career and beyond. Thank you.
Scott, thanks. We're going to come back and continue our business at about 6:10. So if before cookies and coffee, could we all stand and give Scott a round of applause? Test. Commissioners, if we're ready, we'd like to resume the meeting. Hank and Ray, are we back online?
You are good to go.
Thank you both. Where's Asia?
You should be coming.
We're going to pause a minute for Commissioner King. Should we go ahead and do it?
Yeah, here she comes.
Thank you all for staying, and we're going to resume the meeting after the fine reception for Scott Graham. Thank you, Scott. And Susanna, thank you for coffee and cookies, and nobody cut the cake.
Not yet.
Uh-oh.
Not yet.
If I could ask everybody for a moment of silence. Thank you all, and Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioners, any announcements at the beginning of the meeting here? Joe, Asia? Hearing none. We do have the election of the chair and the vice chair as our next item. Anybody want to make a suggestion?
I would certainly like to nominate Bill Roshan as chairman and Mike Rodriguez as vice chairman.
Joe, thanks very much. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Scott, could we poll the commission?
I didn't catch the second.
Mike Rodriguez as,
Okay, okay.
oh, sorry.
Commissioner Ingraffia,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
Chair Roshan.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, commissioners, for your trust. Mike, thanks for serving. Public comment. I'd like to open the microphone for anybody online or here at the meeting who has something to comment on other than the tonight's case. If you can't stay for the meeting but would like to talk about the applicant's case tonight, you're welcome to do so now too. Please state your name if you're comfortable. Welcome.
Yes, Barry Brannon, Morro Bay Planning Commission. Thank you for all your service. It's a number of hours. It's just overwhelming how much talent and contribution that our citizens give to the committee and to the city, and I really appreciate it. My question is that looking ahead at the Planning Commission current and advanced project tracking sheet, and it states that on page 36, line 34, it talks about 1260 Embarcadero Master Plan. And it says Morro Bay Power Plant Master Plan will be brought to the council, to the Planning Commission on a presentation on the 20th of this month. And I wonder if you would, for a few minutes, just enlighten us what to expect so that people can be properly prepared to attend that meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, Barry, thank you very much. It's about the master plan, not about the battery storage. The EIR is still out. So we're going to focus on the remaining acreage. Scott, would you want to further define that from the staff's point of view?
Thank you, Chair Roshan. So yes, the item is, it'll be the first opportunity for the Planning Commission to, it's kind of a study session, I guess I would say, for the master plan. The master plan does a few things. It does deal with the land use changes that would be necessitated by the battery project, but it also really is focused on looking at what could be done with the remaining property on the power plant site, exclusive of the area where the battery project is proposed. We do have the application obviously in-house for the battery project, and we're probably just a few weeks away from releasing the draft EIR for public comment. So the idea would be to have the consultant, Rincon, who the city hired to prepare the master plan, provide an update on the status of the master plan to the Planning Commission, to discuss the public engagement that we've had to this point, what's come out of that, to talk about some general policies that are likely going into the master plan, and then to get feedback from the public and the Planning Commission.
And what is the schedule on the master plan after that?
Once we receive that input, they'll probably, the Rincon would be going to work on preparing the actual public draft of the master plan. There'll be another workshop where we present the findings of that workshop, or of the master plan, and the policies, and the document will be presented to the public, and there'll be another opportunity to provide input at that point, and then they'll wrap up the master plan, take whatever input from that workshop, and then finalize it, and then it'll go through its adoption hearings, along with the project. Is what the schedule looks like.
Scott, thanks so much. Barry, that was a great question. Does that answer? Terrific. Anyone else want to speak during public comment?
Commissioner, staff, and community members, Jamie Irons, Morro Bay resident. Mr. Graham, Scott, when reading the announcement of your departure from the city of Morro Bay, the list of your accomplishments and contributions to our community were both numerous and impressive. Things that stand out about you are your kindness, compassion, work ethic, dedication, integrity, and downright doggedness, which is what it took to complete the general plan, local coastal plan, and the zoning code implementation. Your work and dedication has positioned our community for success, and for that, we thank you. Monica and I wish you all the best. Thanks, Scott.
Terry, welcome.
Thank you. I'm almost embarrassed to take a moment of your time, but I wanted to thank everybody for acknowledging my absence for a couple of weeks. I'm back, I'm going strong, and look out. Thank you.
Happy to have you here. Others? Welcome, Betty.
Thank you. Betty Windholtz, I'd like to remind the community, if I'm not mistaken, that February 1st was the beginning of nesting season. And this is a time when we do not cut trees or trim them unless it's a hazard. So I just need that word to be out there, and maybe the city will post it again on its hot topics.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, reminding us. Others? Hank Ray, anybody in the queue, please?
Thank you, Chair Roshan. There are currently no raised hands in the queue.
With that, if no one else would like to speak, I'll close public comment. Consent calendar. Commissioners, we have approval of the Planning Commission meeting minutes of September 19th.
We have the exact same issue we had last week where
Would you mind repeating for us?
So the minutes that are in front of us are the incorrect minutes that don't accurately state what actually occurred, and we need to get Scott already has the corrected minutes hiding somewhere, but these are not they. And someday, some other planning director will get us the correct minutes for this meeting. So I would move to approve item A1. It's actually a receive and file. But
We don't need to approve it, I don't think. And if we would just want to postpone the
A2.
minutes
Yeah. I'd move
from
to.
September 19th. Give Scott a second, make sure we're right.
Second.
Scott, should we move on, or do you want to wait?
Fine, this does appear to be the same version of the minutes. I don't know.
We promised not to hold it against you. Okay.
Yeah, we had them all scored away. I don't know exactly what happened there.
Okay, we'll try again. Thanks. With that, I'm going to move to the public hearing. We only have one case tonight. The case number is Coastal Development Permit CDP 23-024, Conditional Use Permit CUP 23-11. The site is 1141 Main Street. Coastal Development Permit, CUP, and design review is involved. And Susanna, I think this is your presentation.
Before we start, Chair, through the chair, party communications, because I did meet with the
You want
applicant
to do
today
it
at
now? Okay,
2
commissioners.
So I met with the applicant at 2 o'clock today. I just showed up, made a call, he came, and we reviewed the project.
Thank you, Mike. Others?
And I met earlier in the week with the applicant.
Asia?
I did as well.
I did not, Mike did not, or Eric did not. With that, Susanna, you're on.
Thank you, Chair Roshan, and good evening, Planning Commissioners and members of the public. The project before you tonight is a request for a coastal development permit and conditional use permit for the conversion of the existing Quonset hut building at 1141 Main Street into a 10-unit hotel. The property owners and applicants are John and Joan Solu and Brian Harvey. The agent is Chris Allen. This is an aerial image of the existing 18,545 square foot parcel as seen from above. The site is zoned R2 on the western half of the property and C1/S4 on the eastern half of the property. The lot is not located within the coastal appeals jurisdiction. The existing building lies on the half of the parcel zoned C1/S4. Upon certification of the new zoning code, the zoning will be community commercial on the C1/S4 half. The hotel use would be allowed for both those zoning designations. The western half of the parcel will be used for parking and landscaping. The project, as designed, meets all applicable development standards from the city's zoning ordinance and is not requesting any variances or modifications. The western-facing facade will include a common area patio, and this will face the parking lot. The front-facing facade facing Main Street proposes to remove the current Art Deco facade and change out the front doors and windows. Along the sides of the buildings, windows and patio doors are proposed for each hotel room. This is the building floor plan that shows the 6 larger rooms on the northern half of the building and the 4 smaller rooms, staff/laundry room, and snacks/ice area on the southern half of the building. Each room will have its own private outdoor area in addition to the common patio shown previously. This is the overall site plan showing all the proposed parking and landscaping. There are 11 parking spots total, with 2 designated as EV parking spots and 1 ADA van accessible parking spot. There's also a loading zone located at the front of the property. The project was subject to design review, which applies to site design, design features, materials, lighting, signage, and landscaping. As seen in the color and materials board, the siding will maintain the existing galvanized corrugated metal siding and update the front facade with cedar shiplap wood siding accents. All the lighting will be downward facing and dark sky compliant. The project is proposing 2 backlit wall signs on the front and rear facade, as well as a monument sign located at the Main Street entrance with ground-mounted lighting fixtures. The signage for the project meets all signage requirements currently in effect. This is the proposed photo simulation for the project showing the proposed landscaping along the frontage of the site. Similar landscaping will be put in place along the north side of the proposed parking spaces on the western half of the property. The street tree seen on the left photo is proposed to be removed. This would qualify as major vegetation removal. To meet the 2-to-1 replacement requirement, the project is proposing 2 trees on the property. Additionally, Public Works has conditioned the project to add a replacement street tree along the frontage of the property. Therefore, it is staff recommendation to adopt Resolution 01-24, which includes the findings and conditions of approval for permit numbers CDP 23-024 and CUP 23-11 for the proposed hotel conversion of the Quonset Hut building at 1141 Main Street. Thank you.
Susanna, thank you. Very well done. Nicely written and presented.
Thank you.
Commissioners, right now we have questions, not comments, questions only for staff. I'll start. Could I ask a couple of quick things? We did get a letter from Sean Green talking about sidewalks there. Susanna, could you give us a little definition on that?
So the sidewalks shown on the photo simulation, though that sidewalk is what's proposed on site. It's the ADA ramp up to the front door of the hotel. There is also the frontage improvements that are required that aren't in the photo simulation, and that will be 8-foot sidewalks as required by Public Works.
And are those defined in the site plan
Yes.
and dimensioned, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Second question, I think I understand this, but the volume inside is actually going to be full volume. So when you look up, the shape of the Quonset hut will be seen in the rooms and the corridor. Is that right?
I believe from talking with the applicant that the rooms in the hallway, they won't go all the way up.
There's going to be a drop ceiling?
There's going to be a drop ceiling, yeah.
Okay, we can confirm that with the applicant then. Any other questions? Mike or Eric? Hearing none, let's go to the applicant. If I could invite the applicant up to speak, do a presentation. How much time do you need?
4 hours. No. Good evening, Commissioners. So in response to kind of your immediate question,
Sure.
I think easy answer is the shell of the Quonset hut is intended to stay intact. The rooms themselves will, in fact, have ceilings within them that will actually drop below the shell. Does that clarify that?
Okay. And you are keeping the, I think it says it in here, but just let me confirm it publicly. You're keeping the original skin on the Quonset hut, right?
Correct, yeah.
And that's like a steel shell. Is that what it is? Corrugated steel?
It would have otherwise been a galvanized or galvalume.
So it's galvanized steel.
Yeah, it came as part of a kit within what would have been the Quonset hut
Got it.
structure itself.
Got it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, presentation-wise?
Sure. I didn't actually prepare a presentation officially, per se. I was intending for John to make that. But my name's Chris Allen. I'm actually the architect representing the client here.
Nice to meet you.
And so this is interesting. Planning commissions, in my perspective, have always been kind of determining whether or not a project fits within the community in its location. This project, and it is somewhat of a rarity as an architect to find a project come along that fits so nicely into the neighborhood and community that it's set in. When a client like these come to me asking for a project to be accepting of its historical nature and the position that it sits within a community like this, it's great to feel like somebody actually follows the same perspective as your own. And so I just have to kind of reiterate my appreciation to them for pursuing a project and being willing to maintain the historical component of the project and then help kind of bring it into modern times. So in terms of commentary, that's all I would have otherwise reiterated.
And while you're up there, only because I'm an architect as well, so like I love the idea that you're talking about it. Was there any consideration of exposing some of the interior shell? The volumes from the interior can be striking.
I think both front and back facades allow for a peek through the window fenestration that's provided, but really I think the amenity of experiencing the interior is intended for the guests themselves to allow for that experience.
Right, but I'm questioning the flat ceilings. I know why they're an advantage.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the interior wall surfaces are actually left to be exposed, but the disadvantage of using a historical structure like this is that there are still building codes that need to be applied. Insulation, sound, and so determining whether or not the existing shell has any ability to actually be retrofitted to allow for those code compliant elements to be applied is really, it's an inevitability that you just have to build within that shell. So that was part of the purpose of continuing the wall surface to be exposed to the interior of the rooms themselves, but then allowing the interior of the hall and kind of the guest spaces or shared spaces to take in the shell.
Other questions?
Yeah.
Eric?
I'm a little, so is the project intending to use the existing steel corrugated, or are we replacing?
No, they're going to keep it.
No, we are intending to keep it. There are, if you were to drive by the site today, the only instances in which we intend to provide either replacement or new are that there are translucent, or I should say,
Fiberglass panels.
Fiberglass panels. And so that, in those locations, it really wouldn't make sense to have translucent panels in what otherwise are guest room walls. So there may be infill happening in those locations. And then on either end of the building, there's extensions that are providing a slight eave to just give definition and a shadow line to the project. Architecturally, it just needs a little bit more interest on both of those ends as opposed to just leaving a flat facade.
And in the written comments, I see shiplap, but in the visuals, I see vertical tongue and groove. Is it vertical tongue and groove that's intended, or is it shiplap?
So on the ends of the building, I believe we're doing a vertical tongue and groove, but in certain inset areas within details at each patio space, I think we're intending to actually have a shiplap surfacing.
Okay.
Same material, though.
Thanks.
Eric, thank you. Mike?
I just wanted to have one question based upon what was in the staff report, and that's regarding the cultural resource management services. Under condition 9, archaeological and Native American monitoring will be done. Now, how will that take place? Just explain to me how, in the process of doing this, how will you do that?
And procedurally, what would end up happening is if this were a new development and there was a mass excavation project entailed, likely what would happen is a representative from a Chumash Tribal Council would be present during that excavation for its entirety. In this project's extent, the excavation is pretty defined to the frontage, and any of the kind of excavation necessary to tie in utilities. So the expectation would be there would be a representative on site during those excavation activities. But beyond that, there wouldn't be a need unless something is subterranean.
Okay, thank you.
And can I ask Scott, how does that work relative to the city's, I don't know, support, engagement?
So we would require proof of contracts for the archaeological work. So you're going to have both an archaeological monitor and Native American monitor on site during excavation activities. As the applicant indicated, there's not a lot of excavation, largely centered on utilities coming into the site and the frontage improvements. So it's probably a limited nature, but we would normally review and have them provide us copies of the contracts for those services. Oftentimes, we'll do a kickoff meeting in the beginning, just to remind everybody that they're required to do that as well. And so that would potentially happen, with the contractor on site when they get ready to start work.
Thanks, Scott. Joe, Asia?
In my visit to the property, there was some mention of some sort of a monument that would detail the historical significance of the building. Would you care to comment on that?
So that was kind of what I was entailing about having a client who has interest in actually providing community, involvement to a project like this. And Joan, one of the applicants, actually mentioned that the possibility of having a plaque created for the frontage on Main Street would be something that they would want to pursue to provide community understanding of what the significance of that project and property actually were. I don't know if that procedurally becomes something that they pursue in the future. You might be able to, or maybe it's simultaneous. But yes, there definitely is pursuit of providing something at that frontage.
Chris, thank you. Asia?
I don't have any specific questions. Like I said, I was able to visit the site and it was very helpful.
Nice. Chris, thanks very much. Thanks for being here. John and Joan, do you want to add anything during this time?
Well, we didn't prepare anything, but, well, I'm Joan Solu, and my husband, John, and our partner, Brian, have a history of working together to do projects that create a sense of place and a sense of space. We did that with the 1939 Beach Bungalow Inn and Suites when a lot of people thought that it was a teardown. We purchased it, and it was a little bit like the Winchester Mystery House without any of the mystery. There were lots of spaces that opened up into nowhere, closets that were nailed shut, and those kinds of things. And we brought that back to a really very popular, usable space. Tourists love it. There were people who honeymooned there in 1940 who came back and stayed again and couldn't believe it. It still existed, the little corner suite that they stayed in. We did it with the Pleasant Inn Motel. And one of the big things for me with that was the purchase to restore the original sign that was there. I don't know, some of you might remember the yellow sign that was there. That went away with a couple of owners later. We did it with the 456 Embarcadero Inn and Suites, took it out of 1982 and kind of freshened it up. And we really do want to create a sense of place and space and history and knowledge with this. There's very few of these Quonset huts left. There were over 40 of them in Morro Bay at one point. There's about 5 left now, existing in the complete shell. Regarding that signature arch that the building has, when you come into the building as a guest, right now it's wide open and you can see that from both ends. It's really kind of a thrill to see. We want that thrill to still remain there. So when you walk in either the front or the back door, and I'm really bad with north, south, east, and west, but I do think that's positioned pretty much east and west, right? When you come in that east or west door, you are going to be able to look down that hall and see that arch all the way above those boxes that are dropped in there. There are some questions about these boxes. A lot of people ask me, what's that going to be like? What's that? I don't think that there's anybody in this room who hasn't played with a box of Legos at some point, especially with all these planning commissioners and architects. So imagine those little Legos, and you can stack them different sizes. In order to give architectural dimension, the boxes inside, those are going to have a little bit, also to hide from what I understand from Chris, I'm no architect, but also to hide some of the utilities that come in. The roof lines of those will change a little bit on the inside. So that gives interest to the inside. And then, yes, the hidden history panel. We would love to work with the city to find a place to put that hidden history panel. One of the other things that we always put on our buildings is an American flag. So we have to find a spot for a flagpole too. We missed that in the plans. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate you looking at this tonight. And if you have any questions, we're here. And
Great.
Yeah, we're in this community a long time, so we're
Joan,
looking for
thanks very
projects
much,
like
and thank
that.
you for your letter that you put in with the application. It was really helpful to us, talking about your background in Morro Bay. Commissioners, I'm going to go to the public comment. This is the time where you get anybody who'd like to speak on the project gets the chance to do that. Please welcome.
My name is Terry Simons, Morro Bay. It's so exciting to be back. First of all, let me say I don't know the Solus, but I do know Brian Harvey. He worked for my company many, many years ago, and I have the greatest respect for what he did for us then and what he's done in the interim, and I think that his participation in this will help further a great project. I'm very much in support of the idea of the repurposing of the Quonset hut. As it was mentioned, there are very few left. There were originally somewhere in the neighborhood of 150,000 of them made for World War II. They're all over the planet. See them a lot in the South Pacific and in Hawaii, but there's not that many along the California coast. Speaking specifically to the project design, number one, I think that there's a potential huge missed opportunity here. I would hope that the entire hallway could be left open to the roof, to the underside of the roof. It's a wonderful space. It's very dramatic. And when I saw the logo for the project that had what appeared to be an airplane prop on it, I thought, oh my God, they're going to do an air museum hanging from the ceiling. What a wonderful opportunity for an additional historic link. It doesn't sound like that's happening, but I didn't see any sections in the plans. But I would really hope that that space would not be abandoned. Now, I have an ongoing concern, not of this project in particular, but it would appear that this project is yet another unmanaged facility. Now, the Solus have multiple facilities in Morro Bay, so I'm sure their ability to respond to concerns and problems is much better than the typical out-of-town vacation rental or some of the new mini hotels that we're seeing that are managed perhaps at a distance. I really think that the city needs to look at policies involving when is a hotel not a hotel because it doesn't have on-site management and on-site control. Lacking that, anytime there's a problem or a complaint, the logical place for anybody to call is going to be 911, and the Morro Bay Police are going to become the de facto managers of a lot of these small hotel projects that we've been approving. So I would hope this project, I think, will be fine. But I think as we move forward, and the trend seems to be to develop more and more of these small hotels, we need to have some sort of community guidelines so that we don't overburden our police force to be the monitors of these potential problem hotels. Other than that, I think it's a wonderful project, and I look forward to seeing it. And I hope that the attic space becomes some sort of wartime hanging museum. Thank you.
Terry, thank you. Commissioners, I'd like to take up Terry's question in our debate and our comments. Others who would like to speak on the project?
So, good evening, members of the Morro Bay Planning Commission. My name is Andy Hamp. Our family owns Cypress RV and Mobile Home Park on 1121 Main Street next to the proposed project. I am convinced the Quonset Hotel will be a great improvement for the neighborhood and wish the Solu family all the best for their new business. In the letter I sent to the Planning Commission, I addressed our concerns in some detail about the potential impacts the project could have on what has been a shared approach. For decades, vehicles from both properties have traveled across each other's frontage. This diagonal approach is essential for our customers because it eases merging in and out of traffic, eliminates complex maneuvers, and alleviates scraping and damage to the rigs as they cross over city right-of-way. Our fear is that the project will require frontage improvements that worsen the egress and ingress for our park. In my letter, I had asked for conditions to ensure that that doesn't happen. Well, anyway, yesterday planning staff had what seemed to be good news. The whole issue may be solved by moving the new drive about 3 feet farther to north and eliminating the proposed curb on the south side. This is a huge help and sounds like it could work. As the video I submitted shows, and Susanna has it with her from what I understand, RVs do track right across this area regularly. I hope the plans will allow us to discern how and where the slopes of the concrete and asphalt will match, and that they allow for smooth lines of travel across them. Also, it's a long path from paper plans to construction, as you all know. The building permit or unforeseen issues during construction could require changes to the initial plans and impact the approach in a negative way. One reason I'm so wary about this is that when the city repaved Beach Street outside our second entrance, I was assured by the city that, actually promised that the resulting slopes would be fine for RVs. Well, they're not, and now I have a collection of broken off RV parts as a result of the repaving, and our customers do not like that exit. As such, something in the, I'm not a planner, but maybe something in the commission's approval along the following lines would be helpful. Project access for Main Street is to be designed and engineered with approval by city engineers in accordance with exceptions that the municipal code allows, so that unintended impacts and hardships to the adjacent property's access and business are avoided as much as feasible. With such language, future city staff will be reminded of what I know everyone here tonight is working very hard to achieve: a great project without unintended impacts to our access. Putting something in writing will help ensure that new staff will continue, we know they're coming, right, Scott, in the same vein. This is a beautiful project, and I'd like to thank the applicant and the city staff for all the work they did in the week that this issue has come to the front to help find a solution. And again, thank you, Scott, for your help with the community. Thank you.
Andy, thank you. For the record, Andy did send, I think, all of us commissioners a video and a letter, which I think we all read. Scott, can you help us here? How do we look at this, and how would staff respond to the concern? Yeah, it is, but I was just going to address this one issue and then we'll continue. Is that all right?
So we did talk to the neighboring property owner about the issue with the driveway. I'm familiar with it. I actually see, RVs and trucks and trailers pulling in and out of that facility, and understand the concern that he had, meaning if you were to put curb gutters and sidewalks in, new curb gutters and sidewalks in the location, you push it right up against their shared property line. It likely ends up raising a manhole cover that's there, and if you've walked in front of there, you can see where trailers and whatnot hit when they go in, if they come in a straight manner. So certainly cognitive of the issues and the concern that he has. We were able to talk with the applicant about options and the potential to push the improvements to the north about 3 feet, so we're not creating that issue. That has to all be processed through our Public Works Department, because these are frontage improvements. But it sounds like we have an opportunity to make that happen, so we're not worsening the situation there, because we wouldn't want to do that. And then if we are narrowing their driveway and forcing the cars out, forcing cars going south on Main, they would be forced into the opposing lane of travel to pull out. Sometimes they even do that now, but I mean, if we narrowed that down much, we'd be forcing them to go out there, and they have to do that every time. So we're cognizant of it. We've had the conversation with our Public Works Department. Unfortunately, we weren't able to bring anybody from Public Works here this evening. They didn't have anybody available, but they are aware of it, and they are supportive of the idea that we would move the approach and the improvements to the north.
So that's helpful. We can go into the detail, and I'm not sure that the commission has much to do with that. But
that's kind of my feeling. I know the neighbor wants a condition, but really difficult to condition things that are under the purview of the Public Works Department and related to the frontage improvements. So I think we would have to work with whatever that solution is, and make sure that he's aware of that process, and we're showing a plan.
Thanks for that input. Others, public comment from the audience? Sean, welcome.
Thank you, Planning Commission. Sean Green. I own a residence and a commercial business within about 1,000 feet of this project. I had a quick follow-up question regarding the sidewalk. I did submit a letter to Planning Commission, which I appreciate you bringing up and asking staff. My question, I didn't see survey markers regarding the sidewalk width, and my concern was, are we meeting normal required sidewalk widths? In the event, this is just a hypothetical, in the event that the property line is, let's say, 10 feet away from meeting the street, and the standard requirements of public works sidewalks are, say, 8 feet in that area, are we regularly giving up 2 feet of right-of-way to private property, or are we asking applicants to meet the 10 feet to get to the road? I don't know the situation in this particular instance. I just know that north of this property, it looks like there's a 10-foot sidewalk and maybe even 12 feet to the south of the property, so I'm not exactly sure where that fits in. Either way, I'm appreciative of future sidewalk improvements, even at the 8 feet width. I also want to very much thank the applicant for their thoughtful letter that appeared in the agenda correspondence. If every applicant put in that level of conscientious letter writing that could be included in something like an agenda packet, I think a lot of people in the community would be appreciative. I've worked with Ms. Solu on the Tourism Advisory Board. I know she's a significant participant on Historical Society, and I know John's a member of the Rotary Club, and I know they participated in many different civic activities here in Morro Bay. I feel very comfortable with them taking over this particular project that's near and dear to my heart and my properties, and I feel quite confident in what they're trying to do to preserve this wonderful Quonset hut, and I thank you for your time. Thank you, Scott, as well.
Sean, thanks. Others, any, welcome.
I got some sunlight today, didn't we? No rain. Okay, my name is Gary Johnson, and I want to give a point of view because I live right across the street. We're at 1165 Morrow Avenue, and right across is the Cypress Trailer Park and the Quonset hut in question. We're all in favor of it. It's nice to see. For one time, we're building something, not tearing down our history. I love it. Also, at the time of purchasing this property, we understood at the time that the R2 visitor, it's in an R2 visitor serving zone. And what does that mean? It means that businesses, apartments, motels, hotels, whatever they want to build there, they can. And we knew that when we bought the place, and we love it. And we know both parties. The owner of Cypress are good friends of ours, and we know John. I know that John and the architect, if they're going to build a first-class place. And Andrew is a first-class citizen. He keeps his park up nice and tidy. And so with all that said, there's a lot of history with this Quonset hut that was built during World War II. Now, as I understand, there's only 2 left, but Joan said there was 5, but there's one on the Embarcadero. And so my concern was only about the parking. So after talking to John, I think he drew it out correctly that the intake coming in is to come off Main Street, and then when they leave, they'll come out on Morrow Avenue. Now, that some people say there might be a lot of traffic. There's no traffic to speak of because we have RVs coming back and forth in the RV park, and it doesn't hurt us at all. It's part of the community, and so so I understand there's going to be 11 parking places, and my only concern, though, if there's an overflow, where would that go? And of course, our street is all public parking, so I hope that doesn't happen. We also, the only big problem we have are the tourists that get bottled up on Beach Street, and they come zooming through our neighborhood at 40, 50 miles an hour at times. So also the trailer park, we have the traffic coming and going, and like I said, it doesn't bother us at all. I'm in favor of the project 100%, and can't wait to see it finished. Thank you for listening.
Barry, thanks for
Y'all
making the time.
have a good evening.
Thank you.
And Scott, we go back a few years when my wife was on planning and on city council, and you guys got along great together, and Nancy's in Disneyland. Can you imagine that Disneyland today? Anyway, well, my time's up.
Thank you,
So
Barry.
Nancy told me to say congratulations.
Others who want to speak during public comment?
My name's Homer Alexander. I believe there are several good reasons why you should follow the staff's recommendations and approve the Quonset Hut Inn project tonight. In my opinion, repurposing an unattractive, poorly remodeled Quonset hut on our main thoroughfare will be a significant improvement to our downtown. This project is a very creative reuse of a 70-year-old structure. Changing the use to a motel that generates transient occupancy tax will be a nice addition to the city's revenue. In a letter from the Solos that was included in the staff report, you know that over the last 25 years, they have owned and operated 5 Morro Bay lodging properties. What you don't know is the revenue of all 5 of those projects doubled under their management. The Solos know how to run a hospitality business. This will be a successful business, which might encourage others to consider investing in our downtown. Thank you.
Homer, thank you so much. Others? Betty, welcome.
Betty Winholtz. I have 3 items I'd like to narrow in on. First of all, the Solos don't do anything that's shabby, so we know that this is a great project. I also happen to know the Hamps, and as it was said earlier, they also have a good reputation. So my first hope is that the city won't get in the way of putting in some kind of, or enforcing a current rule that needs to be amended so these 2 properties can continue to work well together. And I would think that that does need to be in your requirements, that you put that in there, that it shouldn't just be assumed that that's going to happen, but that you need to make sure that both properties are satisfied and that the city rule doesn't get in the way of doing what's best. So as a pedestrian who walks that area, I understand the need for sidewalks, but you can currently walk there without any danger because of the width of the driveways. And so for me, I don't know that a sidewalk or where the sidewalk is really important because I'm already off the street. So that's why I'm thinking that you can have the 2 properties somehow work together and it doesn't need to look like a sidewalk. And then the reference to when you do have the sidewalk come in from the north, that I don't know why it would need to be bigger than 8 feet, so I was glad to hear that it's only 8 feet. That part of town, there's no way that you would need a 12-foot sidewalk. Then my last point is that if the city, as it should, require a street tree to be put back in, I don't know why this one's going out. And so I'm just going to throw that out there because, you know, I like big old trees, and that's who I am. So I talked about the tree, I talked about the sidewalk, and the need to not let city rules get in the way of making this work for the drive-in. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Others? Susan, welcome.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. Susan Stewart. I remember this project from when I was on the commission, and we got to visit it, and it never really made it out of the starting gate. I think probably some COVID things happened and shutdowns and challenges. But fortunately, the Solos have picked it up and are working to preserve it and utilize this bit of Morro Bay history, and I think we're all very happy about that. I just wanted to quote Sean Green, who always has great things to say, who commented on their genuine interest in blending historical preservation and modern improvements. And then also one of my favorite Morro Bay citizens, Rigmore, who in her brief public comment ended with the phrase, "Please do not be too difficult," which I kind of loved. So make this work. We have some great improvements happening in downtown, a little infill happening, developments going on, but we also have a lot of empty spaces and kind of sort of derelict properties. And I think anytime we can make improvements, it will encourage other people to come in and make improvements as well. So good luck with your deliberations, and hope to see this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Others? I see no hands. Let me go to Hank and Ray. Anybody in the queue?
Thank you, Chair Roshan. There are currently no raised hands in the queue.
So with that, I'm going to
I would-
close public comment.
Can I ask a question before you close public comment?
All right.
Only because I met with John. John, can I ask you a question? Remember, I said this may come up tonight. So could you come to the mic? I said to you, we have two great properties. You need to coexist and live together, hopefully for a long time in Morro Bay. Regarding the in and out, you know, the vehicles in and out, and how do you guys work together? What's your plan? Like, what do you foresee us doing in order to make it work for a long time?
Well, not being a civil engineer, right off the top, I proposed a plan that that I thought could work for both of us, meaning we do improvements and do one big apron between two lots and just kind of open this thing up so there would not be any issues. And then we got into some cost issues and who was going to be responsible for what. And after that, going back to the staff and asking them to see if there's any other solutions, and going back with my civil engineer, we have decided to move this drive approach to the north by 3 feet to accommodate any issues that could potentially come up with egress and ingress to the mobile home park, or to the trailer park, as well as to our property. So I am from day one that I have talked to Andy a couple weeks ago to now. I want to be good neighbors. I do not want any issues coming up because we're going to be living next to each other for many, many years. And as I mentioned to you, hopefully after I pass on and my wife passes on, I have kids that are going to be running this thing for many, many years. So I don't see any issues here as long as we can work this thing out that's equitable to both of us.
Okay, thank you.
I will close public comment. Commissioners, your chance to consider and advise. Eric.
I always wonder what is this thing which Morro Bay is lately, because we're not what we used to be in many cases. And when I see projects like this, it makes me pretty happy because it takes what we were and embellishes it with what we're going to be. And maybe embellish is the wrong word, but I'm really happy with the redevelopment that you guys are proposing. And it does come down to the humans that are next door to each other on this one for me, and the situation there. If there's anything we as a planning commission can put together, I don't know what that might be because we don't really control public works, but just words in many ways might be helpful.
We might be able to do an advisory condition that just asks for that kind of input and resolve. Make sense?
This site is not just a site with a building that was part of the Navy. It's also that little diagonal that runs through town, and that diagonal, as most of you probably know, is the border between the Rancho San Bernardo and then the unclaimed land which Franklin Riley developed into Morro Bay. And this is the most prominent site, other than Triangle Park downtown, that shows off that little diagonal that runs all the way through town. And so any history sign or brochure or whatever gets put together, I think not only should talk about the Navy's involvement, but maybe the edge. This was the north edge of town, and everything where your building was belonged to the Quintana family, and everything south of that was Riley. It's just kind of interesting little nuance, and you can see that line from the air as you look through town. But I'm really happy with what you guys are doing here. I really don't have much to say other than thank you.
Love it. Others? Joe.
I simply just state the obvious. I'm pleased that the project's before us. I mean, it's a building that's currently vacant and unused, and is going to be put to very good use. I think it's undeniable that the building has got significant historic and cultural significance, and I think it's just fortuitous that we have an applicant who has decided to preserve and restore the building rather than demolishing it. And I do think, as Eric and as the chairman has said, we should do what we can to create some kind of assurance that the two property owners can come to some kind of agreement. I'm not sure exactly what we do to achieve that, but we should make some effort.
We can build that into the motion, I think, yeah. Asia?
Yeah, I I agree that I think this is a great project. I do want to make sure that there's some kind of sidewalk put in. I think that that connection, you know, my neighborhood's down the hill. I walk with a stroller up the hill, back from downtown down the hill to the pathway, to the trail. And I think that we need to, I know we're considering cars and RVs, and it's really important for those businesses to be able to function. But I want to make sure that we're not eliminating a sidewalk altogether. That I want to make sure we're keeping ADA spaces as appropriate. So if you guys could just assure me that, then I'm in really full support of what's a really cool project.
Mike?
I think the applicant's done an outstanding job in reusing something that has obviously part of the history of Morro Bay and has a lot of historical significance. They've done an outstanding job of designing it and to make it work for what they want to make it work for. So I think that they've just met that challenge. And obviously my biggest concern was, and I brought it up with John at the site, was making sure that both neighbors could work together in the in and out, you know, the properties, and how that's going to work over time. So we can't just, you know, try to do something, and we want to make sure it's going to work from the get-go for both. So John agreed, and I believe Andy agrees. So we just can build that into our motion. That would be great. Thank you.
Mike, thank you. I have a few comments. Chris, I'd like to invite you back up again. I want to get a little clarity on, Terry touched on this, and my questions were this. There is no section in the plans that show the interior of the building. So could you explain, can you see the roof, the underside of the roof, the ceiling? Where is that exposed in the building?
And that's good to point out that there wasn't a section, and so understanding what that layering actually looks like is challenging with the documents.
You can't do it, yeah.
So what is intended is that in order to satisfy the code requirements of the individual rooms, there will be a ceiling applied at a varying height depending on what position it stands.
But the walls don't go up to the underside of the roof.
The walls of the enclosed spaces for the rooms themselves terminates at that ceiling, so that when you walk into the hallway on the frontage at Main or into the back door off of the Morro side, you will be looking up at the shell of the actual Quonset hut. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. That's clear. Chris, you guys did the butler? No?
Our office was responsible for the butler, and this is almost an identical circumstance in which the butler building itself would have been the equivalent of a Quonset hut. And so kind of maintaining that original structure so that there wasn't conflict with new and old and allowing it to be visible was the objective.
Yeah. So I did visit the Butler Hotel in SLO, and this is very much a successor to that. So thank you.
It is, yes, quasi-butler.
Yes.
And Chris, while you're there, can I ask you a question regarding what Terry brought up again? You know, because I was there today, and John tried to explain it to me how these boxes will go in. You know, but will there be any space where we could possibly create some kind of historical whatever? Will there be some blank space in between the boxes and the ceiling?
There is an absolute void. So that I think
that's right.
I don't have the exact number on the top of my head, but I believe the ceiling at its peak is roughly, let's say, 20 feet. If the ceilings within the rooms themselves maxes out at 9 or 10, there is that void, but of course it's tapering as it curves over the archway. I think it's premature to say that they have evaluated introduction of a nautical or aeronautic theme into the interior aesthetic, but the signage itself is obviously lending itself towards incorporating something of aeronautical significance. That being said, there's plenty of wall surfaces that are on the interior of the space that could be leveraged for hanging a propeller or a portion of wing or something to bring in what otherwise was a hangar of sorts, but not necessarily have to leverage the vaulting above the rooms.
Any skylights considered for that high volume?
Yes, yeah, I think what we're going to try and do is actually leverage the openings that exist, but terminate them at a higher elevation to allow for them to still illuminate the space, but not be arbitrary in terms of how they're placed within adjacency
Nice.
themselves.
Mike, you done?
Yeah, the only reason I brought that up is I wanted to reiterate that Terry was right. There is a void.
Yes.
You know, pretty good void there. And I was wondering, part of our job is to do an architecture review to see if we could work it out so that it's better than what it is now.
Yeah, this is not the T-bar ceiling at 8 feet objective. This is definitely trying to leverage what quality of volume that has and be able to have it be an amenity for the space.
I trust Chris. Chris is a good architect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate that, Eric.
Thank you, Chris. I have a few comments before I want to open it up to a motion. I guess one thing I'd like to do is thank everybody that's here tonight and on the Zoom call. When you get a good project, you get good support. And this is exemplary of that, I think. Not only is this a good project, but it's a project that I think serves the community and serves us well. To quote Barry Johnson, you know, we're building but not tearing down our history. I got to say I like that, and I think that as the commission, it's really great to be able to support this, but to see the community come out and support it at the same time is really impressive and I think very helpful to us, and a good sign. With that, the reason we have a good project, and I really do want to thank Joan and John. This is a careful project. It's a thoughtful project. Thank Joan for her long history with historic preservation. It just didn't come out of nowhere. This came out of, I think, your endeavors for a long time. And I think it's nice for us to be able to recognize that. So thank you. And last, I'll just say another thanks to Chris, that good projects need good architects. And as an architect, I unabashedly support good work. So thank you very much. With that, I'm open to...
I have a motion.
I want to ask a question before we go to a motion. What I heard was that we're moving the entrance 3 feet north, but I'd like a little further description on exactly what that means from our staff.
Scott, can you respond to that?
Are we talking about the northern radius of that little planter and infrastructure that's the ADA access, or what are we talking about?
Give me 1 second, and we'll see if we can't.
The site plan.
See if we can't get something up for you to show you. We have an exhibit that shows it.
I presume there's a grade differential there, that's why that ADA access is where it is. And I'm just curious about how the planters would work in the new ADA with respect to moving it 3 feet north.
In the on the exhibit in front of you, the picture on the right, you see area highlighted in yellow and an area highlighted in red. I guess it's kind of hard to see on the screen there, but the idea would be that we don't do the frontage improvement for the full width of the property. Instead, we would be shoving it to the north and starting it 3 feet further north, so it wouldn't align with the edge of the where the property line is, I guess is what I would say. We did talk with the Public Works Department, and they were accepting of that concept. And so I think, you know, what the chair of the Planning Commission was speaking to earlier about kind of providing a guiding condition that would have the applicant working with Public Works staff to affect this type of change would be good, and then that we also incorporate some language in here that whatever solution is reached is conveyed to the adjacent property owner, so they could review it, so they would understand, you know, what the proposal is. So, I mean, I think with that, you're covering both bases, and making sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody's working together.
Could you give us some language for that?
So that the applicant shall work with Public Works staff to revise the frontage improvements, sidewalk and driveway approach, moving them 3 feet to the north, and that any solution that involves change to the driveway approach in this location be run by the adjacent park.
Can we suggest the applicant, that Public Works works with the applicant and the neighbor?
I'm fine with that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
And just to be clear, there is the sidewalk infrastructure to the north of the yellow and red that is that is included in the project.
Yes, it is.
Eric, anything else?
That's it.
We're good. Joe?
Just asking, in the event that compromise isn't actually achieved, what happens then?
The neighbor will always have the right to appeal the project.
I think there's been a lot of goodwill shown here tonight, so I feel pretty comfortable. Also, I don't think it's our job to over-define the solution, so I would hesitate to do that.
so I'll go ahead and move forward with my motion, because I get that. So we'll build that in, Scott, what Eric was driving at, and you put in staff language. But I would move to approve coastal development permit CDP 23-024 and conditional use permit CUP 23-11, Planning Commission Resolution 01-24.
The second asked for a minor change, and that would be to include the discussion here tonight, as well as this particular slide that shows the proposed potential solution with the yellow and pinkish red.
Yeah, and that would be part of what staff was driving.
So I'm going to get some clarity on that,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Commissioner Meyer, that would be to include this in our the approval this evening, the slide? Is that what you're saying?
Just as an example of what's being proposed, not as exactly, but as what's being proposed by staff at this moment.
It's illustrative, so I think useful. If the commission's willing to accept that, I think it's a good idea.
Because you won't be here, and we just need to be able to argue and say, he said.
That's right. It's good.
And-
Anna will be here, though. It's good.
But staff will be part of that meeting with Public Works, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I hope that.
So we have a motion.
Yeah, we have.
And I second.
And we have a second. We have one condition. Any other comments? Would you poll the commission?
Commissioner Ingraffia,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson Rodriguez,
Yes.
and Chairperson Roshan.
Happily, yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Thanks for everybody being here, and really, this was very great. Thanks. Enjoyed it. Okay. Can we keep going?
Nice job. That was
So commissioners, I want to keep going. We have is that okay with everyone? Sure. Okay, so we'll pause for 30 seconds.
We have a pair of reading glasses up here in case this was someone's glasses.
So let's keep going. I'd like to go on to our next new business. Commissioners, do I have any new business from our side?
Thanks.
Joe, Asia,
No,
Mike,
no.
Eric. Unfinished business. Scott,
I don't.
this is your last chance to tell us about unfinished business.
I don't think I have anything else. The public benefits discussion will come back probably once the interim director gets here.
Great. Thanks, Scott.
And I do have one issue. Terry raised the issue about the unmanned hotels, and we've tried to agendize it several times to try to get some sort of direction and resolve. Let me ask the commission, is that still a worthwhile ambition? With this hotel, I agree with Terry. Again, I feel totally comfortable, but that's not always a certainty with this kind of development. Scott, can you coach us? Is that a worthwhile effort?
So I'm gonna borrow from Commissioner Ingraffia in the conversation about unintended consequences. We have, from a staff standpoint, done some research into this. And the majority of the cities that we've found, I mean, these are happening everywhere. Very few cities have regulations that oversee them, or that treat them differently than regular hotels. I would say this. Certainly, you could agendize it for a discussion to see if you feel similarly or not, and that information could be brought forward, and you could, debate it as long as you'd like. So we could do that, but as it stands right now, most places don't regulate them differently, and normally when we're approving these, like the one tonight, is a great example, has a conditional use permit with it. So if it wasn't operating well and we were having issues with it, we would just bring it back to the planning commission.
So, for example, tonight, that conditional use permit exists for how long?
Forever.
How do you revisit it then?
All conditional use permits can be brought back before the planning commission for review. And
By what's the process to bring them back?
if we had issues with it, we would bring it back. The planning commission, if they were aware of something, maybe staff wasn't or something, they could request that it be brought back. Either of those, I've actually brought back a couple of different conditional use permits in front of the planning commission. Maybe not this current commission, but in the past, when I was here, I have.
Conditional use permits can also have a lifetime, right? They could be specified to be a certain length where they would have to
They can.
re-permit.
Yes.
Is that a reasonable consideration if we had thoughts?
My thought on it was this. If you had a project and you were concerned about it and you wanted to place a limitation on it, you would simply request a report back on how it was functioning within a year, 2 years, 3 years, all of those things. You could do something along those lines, and then we could report back on how they're operating, whether we've received complaints, that type of thing, to see how those types of facilities are operating. You could even, the planning commission could even request, reports on existing ones that we have and how they operate, because we have several in town. They don't have on-site management.
If, let's say that's an option for us, who would we ask to do that report? Is that something staff could do?
Yeah, I think maybe we would point out a handful of them. We'd have a discussion about it, and so we could bring back a report on and show you how those operate, because it's, hotels, advertise in any number of ways now. A lot of hotel rooms are on like Airbnb, VRBO, Flipkey, even Facebook Marketplace.
How much work do you think it is for staff to come back to us with that?
Depends how many, facilities you'd want us to, review to bring back to you.
Staff has nothing else to do, I know, so what do you think? Yeah.
I think in the near term, probably not necessary, but maybe down the road, once we get like the permanent director in place and they get up and rolling, might be worthwhile. I think we have a lot of initiatives that are underway right now that probably are maybe a little higher in value.
Commissioners, can we postpone this issue?
I would suggest that if it's not currently an issue, it's considered to be potentially an issue, but if the police department and if individuals aren't coming to us asking us to do this, I don't know that we need.
All right. Everybody nodding or no? Joe?
Let me say this, in the conversation with the applicant when I visited him, he did confirm that he was going to have an employee, albeit for some limited hours, to introduce the customers to the various amenities. And he's a very responsible operator, but the fact that he feels the need for an employee sort of confirms that there is at times a need. So,
okay, so where does that lead?
So I think we would do well to prioritize it, albeit not the highest priority, so that we investigate it at some time in the near future.
So we could pick it up after a new director comes in? Yes? Everybody nodding? Okay, thank you. Any other unfinished business? Scott, again, last chance.
I don't have anything else for you.
Oh. Do you have any final comments? Again, last chance.
I don't. I did sort of kind of say my piece earlier this evening. It's a little surreal having your last day. Literally 2 days before what my actual last day will be, which is Friday. At least as far as being in the office. I've definitely appreciated the work with the planning commission that's been done over the years. I really love this. I really love the job that I have. Like, it makes me excited every day about the things I get to do. And so getting to work with the community, you're all representatives of the community, and to move, development forward responsibly, to move policy forward responsibly, is something we've done a lot of in my tenure since I've been here. And I didn't make it easy on any of you. We had lots of stuff that we kept bringing forward to you, whether it was general plan or zoning code or, even difficult projects, since we developed several of the waterfront lease sites. All those are always kind of interesting to look at. And I've always appreciated the tenor of the commission, the willingness to roll up your sleeves and dig into projects and policy. I think, the City of Morro Bay is fortunate to have all of you, and I'm going to miss the conversations and miss the meetings with you all. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Morro Bay Community Development Director Scott Graham, thank you. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned.